Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as we, a bunch of friends, standing around a virtual water cooler, talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, and all that sorts of good stuff. As always, we got a hell of a lot of stuff to talk about today, so let's get things started right away with going off the top with this. Now, one of the big surprise hits this year has been the comedy Crazy Rich Asians. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't think it rocked the world, but it was quite good for a little romantic comedy. It's a very formulaic romantic comedy, but one that works. It's funny, it's charming, all that kind of stuff. Nothing really incredibly new here other than the cast of characters and the culture in which it takes place in, but I like Crazy Rich Asians quite a bit. But here's the reality, though. It's a $30 million movie that has now made almost $230 million movie, $230 million, and guess what? It hasn't even opened in China. And there's been a big question mark about whether or not it would even get to open in China. Well, that wondering is now done, as China has approved Crazy Rich Asians to have a release date there, and the release date is going to be November 30th. So a little over a month from now, Crazy Rich Asians is going indeed to get a Chinese release date. Now, some people may be wondering, understandably so, how was this ever even a question? How could a movie called Crazy Rich Asians, which is incredibly popular around the world, everybody seems to love this, why would this film have trouble playing in China? Well, remember, there's a couple of things. There is a quota of how many films can actually come over and play in China. On top of that, China is very strict on what movies they will allow to play there. And when you look at Crazy Rich Asians in China, that has a very strong socialist kind of philosophy, a movie about the ultra wealthy seems a little bit questionable. Plus, like, there's in the movie, there's reference to somebody being in a China prison and all this kind of stuff. There was a question mark going around. There was worry over at Warner Brothers whether or not China was ever going to allow this movie to play there. But apparently they've made some concessions. China, as they always have the right to do, is going to do a little bit of censorship on the movie, whatever. But the bottom line is this movie's going to play in China. Now, you would think that this movie's instantly going to do really well, but there are some question marks surrounding it. But still, it's nothing but good news for Warner Brothers and the movie. Like I said, the movie's already made $230 million on a $30 million budget. It's going to go nothing but up. How big of a hit will it be in China? Don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. All right, let's go on to this next thing here. We all know that there is a new Spider-Man movie coming. What? But Spider-Man died at the end of Infinity War. Yeah, I know. You get caught up. There's a new Spider-Man coming called Spider-Man Far From Home. I believe it opens in June or July. One of the 2 months. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's coming up pretty soon. Less than a year away. And we know this is coming. We've seen some photos from the set leaking out online, and some giving us a little bit of a glimpse. But now via Twitter, it's the best looks at the new Spider-Man costume have now surfaced online. And it seems like the new costume is ditching the red and blue and going for more red and black, which we've seen in the Spider-Man comics before. So we're getting a good look. Of course, here's a good look at Tom Holland with Zendaya there. Obviously, she's back, going to be playing a major role in the film, of course. And there are some pictures that take a little bit of a closer look as well. And you can see it has that, what is all the style now in the superhero costumes. It's got the ribbing on there, which personally I like. I like the look and the texture of the ribbing that you get on a lot of these superhero costumes now. So I dig it. It looks pretty good. I like it. Yeah, it's not the red and blue, but honestly, as long as I can look at the costume and instantly identify that that's the superhero, I'm happy. Now, normally, you guys know me. I don't care that much about the costumes per se. A great costume is not going to make a bad movie good. A bad costume is not going to make a good movie bad. It's a costume. It's just another element. If it looks great, great. I like the look of this. I thought it looks pretty good. Now, there were some people who tweeted to me who knew and understand that I hate the Iron Spider suit. And I hate that they turned Spider-Man. And I love Spider-Man in Infinity War, and I love Spider-Man in Homecoming. I just don't like, and I a little bit resent the fact that they turned Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not cool enough. You know what the kids like? They like Iron Man. Make him Iron Man Jr. And they turned Spider-Man into Iron Man Jr., with that horrendous, awful, totally misconceived and ill-conceived Iron Spider suit. Now, I know a lot of you guys like it, and that's great. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying, for me, I don't like that they did that at all. Spider-Man is special enough. You don't have to turn him into Iron Man Jr. Anyway. Now, a lot of people tweeted me and saying, John, did you see the new pictures? He's ditched the Iron Spider suit. He's gone back to a quote-unquote traditional Spider-Man look. And I would be thrilled, except that I don't think seeing these set pictures either confirms or deny that this isn't yet another version of the Iron Man Jr. suit that Spider-Man's been wearing in both Homecoming and, of course, even to a higher degree in Infinity War. Does it look like it's just a fabric suit? Yes. But just because it looks like that from a behind-the-scenes photo doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. It doesn't mean it's not either. Look, I am going to be thrilled, absolutely thrilled, if they just get Spider-Man back to being Spider-Man. If that's just a material costume and it ain't the stupid little Iron Man Jr. costume, and they're actually getting Spider-Man back to being Spider-Man because Spider-Man is cool enough on his own, I will be thrilled. I'm just not going to get ahead of myself and get too terribly excited yet, just because it looks like it's not the Iron Man Jr. suit. Who knows? There could be post-production on it. It could still be an Iron Man Jr. suit that just looks like it's cloth. I don't know. I'm not going to get too worked up. But man, if it is, you are looking at one happy camper. You are looking at one happy Campea camper right here. I'll be absolutely thrilled. But still, regardless of whether or not this is a Tony Stark invention or something that Peter Parker sewed together himself, I like it. Again, it's not shaking the world. It's not shattering my mind, but I like it. I think it looks pretty good. We'll have to wait and see how it actually plays out on screen. Okay, with that stuff out of the way, let's go on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics? It's simple. You guys select our main topics by emailing me your topics and questions to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. When you email me, guys, make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. And of course, as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right. With that said, let's get to the first email today. And the first email today comes to us from Michelle Donnelly. And Michelle Donnelly writes, saw Venom for the first time last night, and I was surprised at how full the theater was for a movie in its second weekend. I read that it came in at number 1 again, which was also surprising because I thought First Man would be number 1 for sure. Are you impressed with how well Venom is doing? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Michelle Donnelly. And yeah, Venom's kind of been the story here for a while. Number 1, that the audiences seem to be liking it as much as they are. And then the huge opening weekend that it had with $80+ million shattering all expectations and destroying the opening weekend box office record for the month of October. But the question was, how big of a drop will it take in week 2? Will it take like a 65% drop? Or would it be hover around the 50 to 55% drop? That's been the question. I thought it was going to drop about 60%. And I like the film, but I thought it was going to drop around 60%. Well, Venom only took a 55% drop. It only took a 55% drop, and it came in at number 1 at the box office again. Some interesting numbers coming out of the box office weekend. So Venom takes number 1 with making another $35.7 million. You can see in red there that the drop was only 55.5%, much lower than a lot of us, including myself, anticipated. Coming in at number 2, A Star is Born, that only dropped 35%, which is great, making $28 million. The new film, of course, is First Man. Look, they were projecting around $15 to $20 million. It came in at that, but you know Universal's got to be disappointed. You know that a year ago, as they were putting the final touches on First Man, they were hoping this movie would bring in more than $16.5 million on its opening weekend. But that's what we were tracking it. That's what it ended up coming in at. Coming in at number 4 is the new Goosebumps film, Haunted Halloween, also making $16.2 million. Interesting note, the other film that opened up Coming in at number 7, only making $7.2 million, is the new Drew Goddard film, Bad Times at the El Royale. Now, if you guys remember last week, somebody mentioned how big is El Royale going to be, and I said, you know what? As much as I have liked the trailers for Bad Times at the El Royale, they're not trailers I felt that were going to appeal to a wider audience. And I had some serious concerns about how well Bad Times at the El Royale was going to be and how well it was going to do on the opening weekend box office. But I certainly thought it was going to do better than 7 million. I certainly thought it was going to do better 7 million. But that's a story for another time. Let's get back to Venom here. Venom is now just about at $400 million worldwide in 10 days. This is far better than a lot of people were expecting it to do. Sony has got to be thrilled. Again, this is just going to embolden Sony even more. We know they're going to start shooting their Morbius, the Living Vampire, in just a few weeks. They're going to start shooting on that. We already know they started the wheels in motion on their Kraven the Hunter film. At some point, I expect they'll put Silver and Black back on the burner again. And you know they're going to go into the pre-production stages of Venom 2 here pretty damn soon. So these results have got to embolden Sony. Here's my one hope, though. With Venom, we talked about this last week, but with Venom, Sony was sending a message that they learned a lot of lessons from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. You know, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 spread its attention around way too much. They try to focus. It's okay to have a lot of villains. You just can't give a lot of focus to a lot of villains. You know what I mean? You can have 8 villains in a film, but you got to be very selective and you got to budget how much time and attention each of those are going to give. You can't give a lot to everybody. Sony spent more time trying to build up future movies in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 than they spent attention on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And that was one of the big problems. With Venom, Sony sent a big message that we have learned our lesson, and they kept all of the focus in Venom on that individual movie. They didn't try to do world building. They didn't try to set up a cinematic universe. They simply kept their focus on that one film. And they kept it that way until a post-credit scene. The question is, will they continue to hold on to that lesson? Will they go into Morbius, maybe reference Venom? That's fine because Venom's already happened. That's now part of the world. But will they resist the urge to just go crazy and try to set up 8 other movies with this movie? Or will they keep the focus on Morbius? And then the same is true of Kraven. And will they add to each thing as they establish their building blocks along the way? Or will they lose their minds again? That's going to be the question we're going to have to wait and see. But again, as far as Venom goes, yeah, $35 million on its second weekend, taking number 1 at the box office again. It's a beautiful accomplishment. It's really unfortunate about First Man. It deserved better than $16 million. And I still have a chance to see El Royale. Of course, I took off this weekend. I didn't have a chance to see anything this weekend, so I don't know if it deserved better or not, but I'm hearing good things about it. All right, let's move on to the second email. And the second email today comes to us from Jake E., who writes, do you know if there's any truth to the reports that Richard Madden is next in line to take over the James Bond role? I loved him in Game of Thrones like everyone else, but I haven't really seen him in anything else, so I don't have too much of an opinion on it. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jake. And what Jake is talking about is you may have seen some headlines and some reports going around that Richard Madden, who of course plays the King of the North, Stark, the first Stark son to take up the thing, and he gets murdered in the Red Wedding, of course, and in that famous scene and all that kind of stuff. But we haven't seen a hell of a lot of them. At least not a lot of us in North America haven't seen a hell of a lot of them. Our friends in the UK, for those of you watching over there, he's a really hot name right now because he's the star of a series over there, of a brand new series called Bodyguard, which got the biggest ratings of any new show in over a decade on the BBC. It is like the hottest thing over there, this Bodyguard show. And for North American audiences, it comes to Netflix in just a couple of weeks. I believe it's October 24th is when this Bodyguard show comes to Netflix here and we get to watch it. It's a 6-episode series. It looks fantastic, and everybody in the UK seems to be losing their minds over it, so I'm curious to see it. But anyway, getting back to the question, are the reports of Richard Madden taking over the role of Bond, are these true? The answer is probably not, but it's possible. Probably not, but it's possible. Again, everybody's running around with these rumors, and it's understand there was a report that was started in The Sun saying that, this guy could be taking over the role. But here's what the story, this comes to us from our friends over at Cinema Blend who wrote this. A new rumor indicates that Richard Madden, best known as Robb Stark in the Game of Thrones, may be the top contender to take over for Bond 26. Before we get into it, it's best to take this with a giant grain of salt because this report comes from The Sun with only an quote-unquote inside source as the source of information. According to this source, executive producer Barbara Broccoli is looking at Richard Madden as a serious contender for the role of James Bond once Daniel Craig retires from the character. If the rumor holds up, Broccoli is apparently even ready to make the offer to Madden, but then again, this is all unconfirmed. All right, let's look at this. There are a couple of reasons, one in particular, why this could be true. And that is going back to Bodyguard. Right now, this show is the hottest thing in the UK. Obviously, you want to get one of those actors to play James Bond. He's got a lot of worldwide popularity because of involvement with Game of Thrones. It seems like a natural thought that Richard could be your next Bond. It seems like a natural extension that this is a guy who could be James Bond for you. It makes sense. He checks off a lot of the boxes right now, and being the fact that his name is really hot right now only adds to that, right? So there's that. But there are also a few reasons here to believe that this report isn't true. Number one, I still really believe that it's almost a lock that we're going to see Henry Cavill as the new Bond. That's what I think at any rate, but we'll have to wait and see. There certainly have been other big names bandied about for a James Bond. So there's that. But more importantly, besides the fact that it's coming from not a very reliable source in The Sun, but aside from that, it seems to me, with the fact that they're just getting started on shooting this movie, on the new Bond, that doesn't come out for a while still, it seems to me like I highly doubt Barbara Broccoli is running around just like that, casting the role right now when they're only just getting started on shooting the new one. It seems a little early to lock that down. Now, you might be saying, but John, you just said you think they locked down Henry Cavill. Yeah, I know. But even then, I don't think that's official. I don't think anything like that. I don't think they've made their selection. I think Henry Cavill is going to be it, but I don't think they've made their selection. So it really comes down to this. Do you believe the story? The story is out there. It's a legit story, but do you believe the story? I believe there are reasons to believe it could be true, but I also believe there are reasons to believe it's not true. I personally lean towards the notion that it's not true for all the reasons that I listed, but I wouldn't put money on that. There very well could be legitimacy to this story. What would you think of Madden becoming the new James Bond? Do you think he'd be a good fit? Look, I actually think he would be a pretty good Bond. I really do. I think he'd be a pretty good Bond, and I haven't even seen Bodyguard yet, and I think he'd be pretty good. So my first choice is still Henry Cavill, but we'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now with email number 3. And email number 3 comes to us from Jonathan Sanchez, who writes, "Hey, John, quick question. Why do you think Marvel and Netflix canceled Iron Fist? With better reviews from critics and audiences, I thought this show would last a bit longer. Thanks, John." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And for those of you who may not have heard, and I'm sure most of you have by now, Iron Fist, the Defender of Kunlun, has been canceled. There will be no Iron Fist Season 3. The report officially comes to us in a statement from Marvel and Netflix jointly, who put out the following statement. Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a third season on Netflix. Everyone at Marvel Television and Netflix is proud of the series and grateful for all the hard work from our incredible cast, crew, and showrunners. We're thankful to the fans who have watched these 2 seasons and for the partnership we've shared on this series. While the series on Netflix has ended, the immortal Iron Fist will live on. So that was the official statement that came out. No more Iron Fist. Now, you guys know what I think about Iron Fist. Season 1 was nothing short of an unmitigated car crash. That was horrible. Other than the Inhumans, it is the worst thing Marvel in any incarnation on the big screen or small screen has ever done. It was awful. Season 2 was definitely an improvement, but to me, still not very good. It wasn't bad. Season 2 was not bad. It certainly wasn't the car crash that the first season was, right? It was an improvement. But that's as far as I'll go with it. It was an improvement. The best thing about Iron Fist Season 2 was actually the relationship between the Meacham siblings, right? Those two, that was the most, I was always glued to my TV when they were going deeper into that relationship between the brother and sister. That to me was awesome. And they made some improvements with Danny, and they made some improvements along the way, but there were still a lot of weaknesses to the series. I didn't think it was all that great, but not bad, which again was way better than what we said about season 1. So I'm not surprised that this thing got canceled. So why did it get canceled? I want to propose to you there are 3 possible reasons why this thing got canceled. And let's take a look at this. Number 1, Marvel wants to take it to the new streaming service. That is a possibility. Now, before you reject that notion, let's look more carefully at that statement that Marvel and Netflix put out. Notice that they didn't say Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a 3rd season, period. What did they say? They said Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a 3rd season on Netflix. They didn't say Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a 3rd season, period. They said Marvel's Iron Fist will not return for a 3rd season on Netflix. And let's go down to the last line of that statement. It doesn't say while the series has ended. It says while the series on Netflix has ended, the immortal Iron Fist will live on. That doesn't definitively mean anything. But if you wanted to look for some reason to believe that this series will continue on just on the Marvel streaming service instead of on Netflix, the fact that they didn't just say the series is not being renewed for a new season, period, they said it's not returning to Netflix. And while the series will not return on Netflix, the immortal Iron Fist will live on. I believe there is some cause for optimism if you're hoping that Netflix goes over to the streaming service. There's some reason there to hope for that. Personally, I do not think that. I don't think they're bringing Iron Fist over to the Marvel streaming service, but there is some reason there to be hopeful if that's what you're looking for. Well, what's the second possible reason they canceled it? Well, not enough people watch season 2. Netflix notoriously does not really release their view numbers. They don't let people know how many people watch their show most of the time. But I've got to believe the view numbers for Iron Fist were pretty low. For a couple of reasons. One, I remember the day the season dropped, that season 2 dropped. And everybody was like, oh, wait, really? It dropped today? Like with Daredevil season 3, everybody knows when that's dropping. And we're all counting down the hours to when that's coming, right? Iron Fist season 2 dropped and it was like, oh, but Iron Fist season 2 came out? Oh, okay. I suppose. All right. But I think so many people hated that first season. And I personally know a number of my friends who just never watched Iron Fist season 2 because Iron Fist season 1 was so bad. My wife is one of them. My wife couldn't get all the way through Iron Fist season 1. And then when season 2 came out, I was like, honey, it's Iron Fist season 2. Want to watch it with me? No. Oh, okay. I mean, and I think probably my wife and my friends are not alone. I bet there's a lot of people out there that had no interest in trying season 2. Despite the fairly good cameo he made in Luke Cage season 2, but that didn't apparently go very well over. So again, we don't know what the viewer numbers are, but I think there would be a really good argument to be made that the viewer numbers were probably not all that good, and therefore they don't see a point in doing season 3. And yes, the reviews improved for Iron Fist season 2, but they still weren't great. And I don't think this season was going to get a lot of new people to jump on board for season 3. Well, what's a third possibility? A third possibility is that they want to fold Iron Fist into Luke Cage and create the virtual version of Heroes for Hire on Luke Cage. That is something a lot of people have been talking about. Now, people have been looking for that Luke Cage Iron Fist team up for a while, and then of course they had Danny pop up on Luke Cage season 2, and it was a really good episode. It was a positive episode that I liked. I thought the dynamic between the two of them was pretty damn good. So could they just go, you know what? We'll get better use out of this character if we scrap his solo show and either just bring him into Luke Cage, or we dissolve Luke Cage and just make it Heroes for Hire. One of the two. Again, I have nothing to back that up with. I'm just like you. I'm speculating on, but that's possible. So out of these three possibilities, what are the chances? What's most likely the true reason why Iron Fist got canceled? Honestly, I think it's a combination of number 2 and number 3. I think the reality is not a lot of people watch season 2 because if they had massively high viewership numbers, they'd keep doing it. But I think it's a combination of 2, that not a lot of people watch it, and 3, that they want to fold it into Luke Cage. So my guess at this point, and granted it's just a guess, is that that's what's going to happen. But again, in that statement, there is some grammatical anomalies in that statement they put out that might suggest that Luke Cage is going to have a new season. It's just not going to be on Netflix. So you've got reason to believe that they're just pulling it from Netflix to put it on Marvel's streaming service or Disney streaming service. That's fine. I personally think it's a combination of reason 2 and reason 3. What do you guys think? What do you think ultimately led to the Netflix part of it, at any rate, pulling the plug on Iron Fist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. All right, let's move on now to the final emailed in topic today. And the final emailed in topic today comes to us from Ronald Meehan, who writes, I heard you say last week that Chris Evans' tweet that everyone else was saying was confirmation that he was done as Captain America wasn't necessarily that. So, did you see that Evans is now saying his tweet wasn't actually confirming anything? What are your thoughts? All right, for those of you who do not know what Ronald is talking about, one of the big stories last week that everybody was running headlines on was Chris Evans confirms that he is done as Captain America, right? That was the big headline. That was the story going everywhere. The problem is when you looked at his actual tweet, he said no such thing. He may have implied it, but he didn't actually say it. Here's the original tweet from Chris Evans, okay? This is what came out last week on October 4th. Chris Evans wrote, officially wrapped on Avengers 4. It was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role for over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the audience, thank you for the memories. Eternally grateful. Now, everybody took that and ran the headline, Chris Evans confirms he is done playing Captain America. The point that I made on my show last week was that when you actually read his statement, nowhere in there does he say, hey guys, I'm done playing Captain America. I'm done. I'm not going to play Captain America anymore. He doesn't actually say that. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying when you actually read the tweet and the actual words that Chris Evans wrote, he does not say anywhere, guys, I'm just officially confirming that I'm done as Captain America. Now, could it have meant that? Absolutely it could. Am I telling you, don't believe the hype, Chris Evans ain't done as Captain America? I'm not saying that. No. All I'm saying is that pump the brakes on this whole Chris Evans has confirmed he's not Captain America, because if you read the tweet, he doesn't actually say it. That's all I'm saying. That might be what he meant. I'm not saying he's going to be back as Captain America. I'm just saying let's not go around saying it's confirmed when it's not. Well, at a recent event, Chris Evans was asked about that tweet, and Chris Evans clarified the tweet. Now, he also referenced the fact that some people thought Chris Evans's tweet was a spoiler, that it indicated that Captain America was going to die in Avengers 4. So he addressed that and said, look, I'm not saying that at all. My tweet never said that. And then he went on to say this. Chris Evans said the following. You feel a lot more emotions than I think even I thought I'd feel, and I felt it was appropriate to share the gratitude. I know it had a ripple effect, but, and here's the key thing, I am neither confirming or denying anything. I am neither confirming or denying anything. All that means is exactly what I said last week. That tweet from Chris Evans was not a confirmation that he was done as Captain America, but at the same time, it doesn't mean he's not retiring either. He very well could be. He very well could be done as Captain America after Avengers 4. Absolutely, that is a strong possibility. The only point I was making, and that Chris Evans seems to be backing up here, is that tweet was neither a confirmation or a denial of anything. He wasn't denying that he's done as Captain America, but he wasn't confirming he was done as Captain America either. And I think that's important to keep in mind. So whether he's back, whether Captain America dies, all that kind of stuff is still stuff we're going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. So again, I just think we pull the trigger a little quickly on confirmed when it really wasn't confirmed. And this is just another good example of that. What do you guys think? Do you think Chris Evans is donezo as Captain America after Avengers 4? I certainly think there's a strong possibility that that's true. Or do you think, nah, man, they're playing marketing games with us right now. He's back. He's going to be triumphant in Avengers 4, and he's going to go on to lead a new team of Avengers once we get past Avengers 4. Maybe that's what you think. What are your thoughts? Jump down to the comments section and share your ideas about how you interpret this whole thing and where you think they're going to go with Captain America from here. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, we've still got some time here to save to take some live questions. A bunch of you guys have been sending in a whole ton of live questions, so let's dive over to those right now. And we get started on the live questions with Curtis Lopez, who writes, have you seen Bad Times at El Royale yet? I really enjoyed it. I have not. I've been hearing different things from different people. A lot of people have been telling me it's really good. But I have had a couple of people, including on this show in the live chats, of people telling me they saw it and they didn't like it. So for the most part, I'm hearing quite good things. I'm going to wait till Ann gets back from Vegas, and I think her and I are going to try to run out to see it maybe tomorrow night before I run out and see it. But I'm hearing pretty good things about it, but not across the board. I have heard a couple of negative things, but I'll wait and see. It's certainly not, it needs more people to see it, though, because it's clearly not doing that good at the box office. Didn't even come in the top 5 in its opening weekend. Came in 7th. Came in 7th on its opening weekend. Not good. Not good. All right, Brad Timms writes, thoughts on the final CGI of Venom? I liked it. I thought it worked. I thought it was very consistent with the character. You know, some people said to me they thought it had too much of a glossy kind of look, but to me, that's consistent with the ooze nature of Venom and the symbiote. So to me, it worked. I liked it. I talked to a couple people that didn't like it so much, but for me, watching it on the big screen, I thought it worked. Jay Bling writes, in the new Glass trailer, when Elijah's mother says they always underestimate the mastermind, is she really talking about Elijah? I mean, it could be a misdirect, but I think so. I do think she is talking about Glass himself. I think she's talking about Elijah. It just makes sense to me. Now, again, this could be a misdirect. Like, really consider this. There's a possibility that the true big bad guy of Glass may not be either Glass or the Beast. I mean, they're villains, but there could be another character involved other than those two and David. It's possible. And they might just be directing, not showing us that part. And maybe at the end, the Beast and Glass and Bruce Willis, they all got to team up to take down the bad guy. I'm not saying that's the case, and I don't really think that's the case, but we have seen Stranger Things, and this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so he likes throwing in these twists. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but for right now, I'm going with the simplest answer is the obvious one, that I do believe she is talking about her kid. So that's my thought, at any rate. Jacob Silvers writes, why does Disney Pixar always release a movie in the middle of June? Think about it ever since 2015. In 2015, it was Inside Out. In 2016, it was Finding Dory. In 2016, it was Cars 3. I believe that was 2017, but whatever. And this year, it was Incredibles 2. Well, I think, Jacob, again, going back to the whole split question, I think the obvious answer is the answer. Because they have seen great results from releasing movies in that time window. Now, I would have to sit down and look through. I can't remember if all those films actually opened in June, but if they did, Inside Out did very well. Finding Dory did very well. Cars 3 did not, but because that's not a beloved franchise and the movie was terrible. So there's that. Incredibles 2 did very well. Why? Because studios believe in patterns. Rightly or wrongly, Studios believe in patterns. And there's a little bit of superstition to studios just as much as baseball players. When I spit on the ground twice before going to at bat, I get a hit. So I think there's a little bit of that with the studios too. But look, they have released films in that month and they've had tremendous success. Why not keep going back to that? These are movies that are not targeted at kids, but they're very kid friendly. They're targeted at families, right? A lot of these movies come out and they're targeted at kids. Pixar films are not targeted at kids. They're targeted at families. And there's a big difference between the two. But you're targeting at families when kids are out of school, so that's not a consideration. That helps it a lot. They're usually amazing movies, Cars 3 notwithstanding. But let me look at that list. Finding Dory, great. Inside Out, great. Incredibles 2, great. So you're combining all that with a track record of success in that month. You would then really have to turn the question around and ask, why wouldn't Pixar keep going back to that as long as it's working, right? You pretty much need to ask the question in reverse. Why wouldn't they go back to that? It just seems to make more sense, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, Jacob. Anyway, intriguing question, and thanks for sending that in. Rami J. Royster writes, thought Bad Times at El Royale was solid. Good performances, especially from Hemsworth, but the movie was too long. That's usually that's one of my nitpicks with a lot of films is like, a lot of films, all films have their issues. And to some people, continuity within the movie really bugs them if it's not done right. To some people, if the lead actor didn't quite look right, that really bugs them. To me, when a movie is longer than it should be, that's one that really stands out to me. Guys, if you've watched me for a long time, you'll probably notice that there are a number of films that I will bring up, usually right off the bat. This film is too long for what it is. It should have been shorter. Like, that is just an issue that some films have that really push my button for whatever reason it is. So I'll have to wait and see the film myself. But thanks for giving me that insight, Rami, and I'll know what to expect. All right. Jacob Silvers follows up. I meant 2017 was Cars. No problem, Jacob. I got you, man. I got you. I'm Upset writes, thoughts on the film Cop Out, chances for another one. Is that the Kevin Hart film? The Kevin Hart film that he did with Bruce Willis? I think that's the one. Let me just double check to make sure. Yeah, that's the one. Chances for a sequel? Pretty much none. The first movie was terrible. It lost money. And apparently Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis did not like each other very much on the set of doing it. Kevin Smith has told some incredible stories about him and Bruce Willis on set of that movie. It apparently was not very good. So chances, look, anything in this business is possible. I will never say it's impossible. But let's just put it this way, I'm upset. I will be shocked if they ever did a Cop Out 2. I would be absolutely shocked. Grandmaster writes, John, your new studio is like the Avatar sequels. Release date, delay, new date, delay, new date, delay. But as with Avatar 2, we can rely on quality. Well, I mean, also with Avatar, they delay it by years. We've only been delayed 2 weeks right now. We've only been delayed 2 weeks. So yes, originally we were supposed to start shooting the show from the new studio on October 1st. That became impossible. Then we were going to try last Monday and then this week. Here's the reality. I shared a little bit of this on the open mic that I did yesterday. We as a studio, my new job with Power Media, we as a studio, the John Campea Show is not the only thing we're doing. We actually create content that has been purchased by networks. And we're in the process right now of delivering those shows to those networks. And we ran into some delays with those. Because these are shows that we have sold to network, we need to give our priority. And I'm the one who gave the order. I'm the one who gave the order to say, hold off on the John Campea Show. These things need to be a priority. Get these shows and all the things that we need to do with them, get them together and get them delivered. They have to be our priority. So that was my call. And so the delay on the John Campea show is exclusively my fault, but it was absolutely the right decision to make. So we are aiming. Right now, our belief is that we're launching the John Campea show in the new studio this week. We should be putting the final touches on our deliveries today, which means we're going to have a couple of days to do some tech run-throughs for the John Campea show in the studio, and we should be up and running in the studio this week. Maybe it'll be Wednesday, maybe it'll be Thursday, maybe it'll be Friday, but we are aiming for this week. So there you go, guys. This week is when we're going to be aiming to launching the show in the new studio. All right. Rami J. Royster writes, music from Halloween makes my neck hair stand up. You know, I was never a fan of Halloween, but the music is iconic horror music. It's freaky music, man. Like, even as somebody who's never appreciated Halloween the way most people appreciate Halloween, even I will tell you, it is some of the best, most iconic horror film music ever. It's just creepy as hell, man. And yeah, I'm totally with you, Rami. It makes the hair on your neck stand up. Rami follows up, come on, guys, take an interest in science. Mark Wahlberg. I don't remember where that's from. I'm assuming, Rami, you're quoting a movie, and I got to admit, you got me. I don't know where that one's from. Sorry about that. Rami J. Ruler, or ZOMG Ruler writes, I just had said Rami so many times in a row. Could Justice League's marketing have been better, equal better open? Well, I mean, yes. Yeah, I think if you had done a much better job marketing the film. Look, opening weekend is usually all about your marketing. That's usually what it's about. But at the same time, it was never going to do great because the audience had checked out of the DCEU movies. The audience had just been too consistently disappointed with the DCEU movies. Not everybody. And make no mistake, $650 million is a great number for a comic book movie, just not for Justice League, which again should have made $1 billion in its sleep. In its sleep, Justice League should have been $1 billion film. The question should have been, could it hit $2 billion? That should have been the question. So could better marketing have made for an improved opening? Yes, but it wouldn't have addressed the bigger issue, which was there were just too many other DCU movies that the audience just got too disappointed with, and they ultimately kind of gave up on it. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see moving forward. Getting a fresh start with Aquaman. They're going to have an entire year between Justice League and Aquaman. Fresh start. James Wan directing. The trailers have been spectacular. Let's see what happens with Aquaman. Let's see. I'm Upset writes, worst Kevin Hart film, Ride Along 2 for me. Oh, absolutely. No doubt for me. Ride Along 2 is his worst film, I believe. I still remember when I reviewed that movie. I was so disappointed in that movie. Not funny, not fun, just a terrible movie. Kevin Hart put out some really good ones after it, and he put out some really good ones before it. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm upset. That is easily, to me, his worst film. Marky Pop writes, funnier movie, Big Lebowski or Office Space? Funnier movie? Office Space. Mark Pop follows up, how many Funko Pops do you own? I have about 200. I don't have 200. I know I have well over 100, maybe in the 150 range. Maybe in the 150 range. I don't have 200. So you got more than me, but I do like my Pops. I haven't bought any in a while, though. It's like I said, I got to stop buying all these things. But every time I would go to Universal Studios, every time I'd walk into, GameStop, or every time I'd go to, or one of the places that would have a bunch of these things, I usually would inevitably grab one or two, right? The most recent one I bought was the Tony Stark. I believe he's over there. Yes, can you see? Nope, he's actually... See, there's another shelf over here off camera that you can't see. And in this shelf here at the bottom is my Tony Stark from Spider-Man Homecoming. And I like that one a lot. But that's the last one I bought. And I probably bought that one about 6 months ago. I haven't bought a new one in a while. I should buy a couple. You know what? Because I keep thinking I'm going to buy some new Hot Toys, but those things, instead of $15, they're like $300. So I haven't actually pulled the trigger on buying any Hot Toys either, because I'm very cheap and I'm not made of money. But there's that. Let's see. Marky Pop follows up again. Carrie Fisher, no Hollywood star. Yeah, no. Carrie Fisher doesn't have a Hollywood star. Remember, Mark Hamill didn't have one until just recently either. And there's a rule with the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, which oversees the Walk of Fame and who gets a star on the Walk of Fame. There's a rule they have that anybody who's passed away, if they're looking at giving a star on the Walk of Fame to somebody who's passed away, there's a minimum 5-year wait. So I have very little doubt that they're going to put a star for Carrie Fisher on the Walk of Fame. Very little doubt. But according to the rules, they're probably at least 3 years away from that happening, because they have that rule. If it's being given to somebody posthumously, then it's got to be a minimum 5-year wait. Why they have that rule, I'm not sure. I'm sure they have good reasons, but I don't know what they are. But that's their rule. And so since she didn't have one by the time she passed away, they need to wait for 5 years. Now, on top of that, they don't just give them out. Like, somebody has to apply for her to get a star. So presumably the family of Carrie Fisher would have to apply for Carrie to get a star. And there's a $30,000 fee for doing it that the city doesn't pay for. You know, a sponsor has to step up and pay that $30,000 fee. So whether Carrie Fisher's family will want to pay that, or whether they'll look to Lucasfilm to step up, and I'm sure Lucasfilm would step up and pay it because that's nothing to them. But yeah, that's why she doesn't have one yet, just so you know. All right, we move on now. Ben Rayner writes, John, I agree. Peace is a wonderful thing. I mentioned the other day that everybody just repeats the slogans that are kind of twisted that I say, like kiss, kiss, gangbang, that it was a slip of the tongue. But they'll never say anything else. Like if I said peace is good, nobody will repeat that. But there you go. Ben's repeating it. Sebastian writes, you like Iron Man for an Oscar and not Black Panther. Yeah, Iron Man's a better movie than Black Panther. Or Iron Man. First Man. First Man's a better movie than Black Panther. I like Black Panther a lot. Look, watch my review. I love Black Panther. I think the movie's great. I spent a lot of hours in the movie theaters watching that movie several times. I love it. But I have said from day one, I don't believe it's a legit Best Picture contender. I just don't. There's a lot of great movies that come out every year. That doesn't mean they all deserve Best Picture nomination. Black Panther is great. I love it. Big thumbs up from me. I may even prefer it more than Infinity War. But I don't think Infinity War is a Best Picture contender either. If I was an Academy voter, I wouldn't nominate Infinity War, and I wouldn't nominate Black Panther. There hasn't been any comic book movie this year that I would nominate for it. Unlike last year when Logan was nominated, and it were nominated for Best Screenplay, but it should have been nominated for Best Picture because it was the best film of the year. Logan was the best film of 2017, in my opinion. But this year, no. First Man, yeah. Yeah, I would nominate First Man. Right now, I still have to see more movies this year. But yeah, First Man is better than Black Panther. That's just my opinion, though. Despite the fact that I love them both. Michael Strike writes, will they ever release theater movies into streaming? I'm not sure what you're asking. Streaming is filled with movies that played in theaters. Streaming is filled with movies that play in theaters. Unless you're asking, will they release theater movies on streaming like same day? Oh, I don't know. I hope not. That would be really dumb. The main thing is here's the thing. The studios have an agreement with the exhibitors. Who are the exhibitors? Those are the movie theater chains. Studios have an agreement with movie theater chains that there has to be a minimum. I could be wrong about the exact number. So just let me say for a ballpark, I believe it's 12 weeks that you cannot release your movie. If you're a studio, you cannot release your movie for a minimum of 12 weeks after it's been in theaters. That's the rule. And now the studios can ignore that. And they go, no, we're making, I don't know, let's say Cop Out 2. We've made Cop Out 2, and you know what? We don't want to recognize that 12-week window. We want to put it on streaming right away. Then the exhibitors, the movie theaters go, okay, have fun with that, because we're not going to play them in our movie theaters. Why would we take up one of our screens with Cop Out 2 if you're just releasing it on streaming? Makes no business sense for us, so bye-bye. You have fun. Ha-ha. The studios know that the real money is made in movie theaters. That's where they make their real money. Like their real money, by a vast majority, is made at the movie theaters. That's where they make their cash. And the movie theaters, why would they put a movie of yours on their screens if you're also just releasing on streaming? What's the incentive for the movie theaters? They're just going to go, nope, bye. And so the studios go, did we say we're going to put it on streaming the same day? We were just kidding. Please put our movie on your screens. That's why. If they started, and I believe this, if they started releasing movies on streaming the same day they put them out in theaters, it will kill the movie industry. Notice I didn't say it'll kill the movie theater industry. It'll kill the movie industry, period. It'll kill the movie industry, period. You just cannot generate the kind of income and the type of revenue on streaming as you do in the movie theaters. So guess what? Those Avengers Infinity War movies that cost like $250 million to make, those are never going to happen because there's no way they can recoup those costs. But yes, so there's this deal in place between the studios and the exhibitors that, okay, we, as an organization, the North American Theater Owners Association, we will allow your movies to play on our screens, but you have to abide by this agreement that you will not release these movies on any type of home video for a minimum of 12 weeks, if that's the number. It might be a little bit higher than that. I'm not sure. So the day they do that, Michael, I think is the day that the entire movie industry starts to die, I think. So anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. Devontae Brown writes, you misunderstood a fan's question. Well, if that's true, it's because the fan didn't write it properly. They asked your thoughts on people watching movies on Fire Stick. They mean when people jailbreak them to stream movies similar to, and then Devontae continues, to when people jailbreak a phone. It's one of the reasons people buy Fire Sticks over Roku. It's illegal, but it's pretty interesting to see. You're getting old, John. No, hey, look, I know more about technology than most people. I have Fire Sticks. But when remember, the question to me, I remember the question now was, what do you think about people watching movies on Fire Stick? That was the question. That's what they wrote. I don't know why I should automatically just jump to the something. Oh, you mean when they jailbreak them and install what's the name of the Kodi? Kodi, I believe, when they jailbreak them and put Kodi on it and do. I mean, if that was the question, they should have written it that way. It's not up to me to read your mind and interpret what's being said, because the question literally, I remember it now, just strictly said, "What do you think about people watching movies on Fire Stick?" It's like that's what Fire Stick is for. That's what the Roku's for. That's what the Apple TV is for. So if that's what they meant, they should have written that anyway. Well, it's piracy. You shouldn't do it. But it's nothing new. There are many devices. Kodi is not the, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. I think it's Kodi or it's Kodai or something like that. It's this piece of software that basically, it's like a glorified torrent server, right? It's like a glorified torrent where you can pretty much find any pirated copy of any movie that's out there, of any TV show and whatever. You can just find on there and just play it like you're watching a regular movie on a Roku or a Apple TV or a Fire Stick or whatever. Now, there have been, for years, there have been these Android media player boxes. These have been around for years. These Android media player boxes that you can order and buy. And it's basically a tailored version of Android that is the operating system on these boxes, and they look like they're a standard box in the vein of a Amazon Fire or a Roku or an Apple TV. And they function much of the same way, and you can install apps on them and all this kind of stuff. And most people buy these specifically so they can run Kodi on them. I have friends in Canada. I'm not going to name names. I have friends in Canada who own these boxes, and they watch all their movies from home on it because they can get all the pirated movies on it just like that. It's as easy as it is to use a Roku. My opinion is that it's piracy. Like, I have always said this, and people get mad because the popular thing is to say, yeah, find a way to pirate a movie. Yay! That's the popular thing. And I know I'm saying something unpopular. That's fine. I've never cared if something I say is popular or not. Piracy is piracy. Look, you can try to justify it any way you want, but when a creator creates something with the intention of it being for sale, and you find a way to take that thing without paying for it, I'm sorry, that's theft. The creator created something with the intention of it being for sale, and you find a way to circumvent them and take what they created without compensating them for it, I'm sorry, that's piracy. When you find a way to take something without compensating the creator who specifically created it with the intention of sale, and you find a way to take it without compensating them, that is theft. And you can try all you want with all your words about, no, it's not really theft, John, because of blah, 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 blah. Semantics. A creator created something for the purpose of sale, and you found a way to take it without compensating the creator. It's theft. And I remember sitting down with, I remember John Schnepp and I sitting down, and he was, this one day sitting down, he was really, really hurt and really, really upset because he poured his life into making, him and Holly poured their lives into making The Death of Superman Lives what happened, right? Poured their lives into it. Maxed out every credit card, called in every favor, emptied out bank accounts, all that kind of stuff to get that movie made. And you do that in the hopes that you will reap a reward for it. You put that type of passion, creativity, and that many hours of work and whatever, hoping that at the end of the day, you're able to reap a reward for your hard work. And that maybe you create something that people enjoy and like, and they'll want to consume it, and they'll want to buy it, and you can reap rewards for it. That's the whole idea. And I remember sitting down one day, and he was just like completely bummed out, totally disheartened this one day, because as he was sharing with me, it's like, yeah, I just saw this thing that, Death of Superman Lives, what happened? It got out on the torrents and it got out on the thing, and it's like number whatever on the illegally downloaded thing. And I've had a bunch of people, like seriously, people would write to John and saying, hey man, I BitTorrented Death of Superman Lives, what happened? I just wanted to write you and say how great I thought it was, blah, blah, blah. Like the people were writing to him to tell him, thinking they were complimenting him, saying, oh man, I loved your movie, but at the same time admitting to him that they stole it. And he's like, thanks. And I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know if him and Holly ever actually ended up digging out of the hole that Death of Superman Live cost them, because so many people just illegally stole it. Could have ruined them. It could have ruined them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not naive. I understand the temptation. It's like, hey, look, right now I'm totally into Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream. I treat myself to it once a week, every Sunday. I run to the Ralph's grocery store and I buy myself one of the, not the tiny ones, but not the big ones either, like the personal sized Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream. I'm in love with it. Look, I'm not going to lie. If I was walking down the street one day, and I see a little refrigerator plugged into the sidewalk, and it's got power on, and it's a glass freezer, and I look inside the glass freezer, and there's a carton of Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream just sitting there, I'm going to be tempted to go, oh, here it is. Thank you very much. I'll be tempted to do that for sure. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I admit that right up front. I'd be tempted. I understand the temptation, especially when you get software like Kodi and other things that make it so easy and so convenient to do. It's like, oh, just click, click, click. I know this one lady back in Canada who's got it, and they didn't even realize it was illegal. They didn't even realize. They just thought, oh, there's this product for sale and it lets me do this. Well, why wouldn't I do that? Click, click. They didn't even know. I mean, they've made it so easy. I legitimately think there are a lot of people out there pirating tons of movies who don't even realize they're pirating. Because they've made it so easy and it looks so legit. I think there are people who don't even realize it. So I get it. I totally do. Totally get the temptation for it. Totally understand it. But you know, to me, it's still theft. A creator created something with the intention of it being for sale, and you found a way to circumvent that and take it without compensating the creator. Sorry, it's theft. Nobody likes to be called a thief. Nobody likes to feel like a thief. But the bottom line is, when we do that, we are stealing. We're taking something, circumventing their system in such a way that we are not compensating the creator for the labors of their work. And any other semantic way you want to try to justify it and try to make yourself feel good by blah, 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 talk, 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 fine, you do that. That's great. I'm not sitting here judging anybody. And I don't create topics on my show to talk about the evils of piracy. But if you're going to ask me the question about what do I think about it when people do that, I understand the temptation. I do. And I'm not judging anybody. But if you ask me my opinion is it is theft. It is. Just is. And again, I'm not judging anybody for it. But to me, it's theft, and therefore I don't do it. So that's just me. Anyway, thank you for the question, Devontae. All right, Seth Harrell writes, Bad Times at the El Royale was a solid film, a great cast, and pays homage to older thrillers and Tarantino films. Cynthia Erivo was great. Good to know. Like I said, Seth, I'm hearing lots of good things from people about it. It's just, the marketing was challenging because it appealed to some of us, like me. I love the trailers for Bad Times at El Royale. Love them. But you could tell that these are not trailers that are going to appeal to a wider audience. You could just tell, right? And it was even worse than I thought. The film only made $7 million opening weekend. It's not what they were hoping for, but I'm at least glad to hear it's a good film. I Don't Get Likes writes, now that I've seen A Star Is Born, which was great, what parts did you say were mistakes for the first-time director and why? Well, I said it. I said what I thought the mistakes were in my review. Mistake number one was he was too attached to a number of his scenes. Mel Gibson, in his director's commentary for Braveheart, said something that I think a lot of film fans need to keep in mind. He said on the director's commentary, which, by the way, if you've never watched the Braveheart with the director's commentary, you should. It's very, very insightful. Anyway, Mel Gibson made the comment. He goes, there was this scene here that I decided to cut out. And he said this, when you're a director, cutting a scene out of a movie is like killing one of your children. Because think about it. You're the director. You've poured months of planning for that one scene. You probably put years of planning into the movie. For that one scene, you maybe put months of planning. You shot it for days or even weeks, shooting this one scene. You coordinated. You carefully, put together all the shots and how it was going to be done. And you meticulously, blah, 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 blah. And you got it shot and you love the scene that's in your movie. And you realize, even though I like what I created, the movie may flow better if I cut it out. To the director, but I created it. I worked so hard on that scene, and it's a great scene, and I like it, and blah, blah, blah. But as a director, you've got to be able to go, I need to do what is best for my movie overall. And the best decision, said Mel Gibson, was for me to cut that out of the movie, and he said it was excruciating for him to do it. He said, it's like killing one of your children because you're attached to it and you love it. One of my critiques of A Star is Born, which I love the movie, but one of my critiques was, you can tell Bradley Cooper is a newer director because he did not learn that lesson that it took Mel Gibson years to learn. That I believe there are scenes and sequences in A Star is Born that the movie could have done without. They were all good scenes, but removing them would have given a better pace to the film, made it maybe not feel like it dragged, because at 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe it was 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. Anyway, you can feel the length of the film. You really can. And I think a more seasoned director would have been able to identify a couple of scenes that I think most of us as audiences were able to identify and go, good scene, but did the overall narrative of the movie need it to be there? Did it have to be there in order for this movie to work? No, should have been cut. And there's another one that could have been cut, and another one. But it's very difficult for a director to do that. And I believe Bradley Cooper, who did a remarkable job with this movie, I believe that is one of the signs of him being a first-time director, that he didn't have the directorial maturity to recognize, I've got to cut that out. Because it was one of his children. It was one of his children, you know? And there are a few other things, but again, I'll just reference you to go back and check out my review, because I do kind of pinpoint the things that I thought were kind of signs of Bradley Cooper being a first-time director, even though he did a remarkable job with the film. I love A Star is Born. I think it's great. I would nominate it for Best Picture easy. Maybe not win, but I would nominate it easily. Let's see. I Don't Get Likes writes, do you think Bob Iger will leave Deadpool rated R? Hard to say. He made a comment a while ago that he says he believes there is room for R-rated material. He did say that. He didn't specifically make a commitment. Yes, we will do Deadpool and we will make it rated R. But he did say he believes there is room for R-rated stuff in that world. Whether or not he follows through on that, I don't know. I have a hard time believing he will, but he did say he was open to it. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. Dan Peckett writes, Depp, Law look amazing in Fantastic Beasts 2. Excited for the movie? I am excited for it. And I'll tell you what, it was this last trailer that really got me there. I had been intrigued by it and looking forward to it. I wouldn't say I was excited for the movie until this last trailer. And the last trailer got me over that hump. Now I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to see this now. And I agree. I think Depp looks really great. I think his appearance at Comic-Con in character as Grindelwald was a great move. Jude Law, I just always love Jude Law. He always brings it. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Jude Law, by the way, how busy is this dude getting? He's going to be in this massive franchise, Fantastic Beasts. He's now in the MCU, another massive franchise, because he's in Captain Marvel. He's got another Sherlock Holmes movie. That's 3 big franchise films. This dude's getting really busy. Good for him, too. I can't think of a good username writes, based on set photos, Spider-Man is having 3 different costumes in Far From Home. I mean, it's, again, don't rush the gun to think too much about out of context, leaked set pictures, right? Just because we see something one way doesn't mean that's the way it's going to pop up on screen, right? Now, I'm not saying he's not going to have 3 different costumes. All I'm saying is let's be very, very cautious about constructing solidified theories about, or solidified proclamations about what is going to be in this movie from out of context, leaked set pictures. Because oftentimes, more times than not, we're wrong when it comes to that. It's possible. I'm just saying, let's not get too married to that idea just yet, because quite often we're completely misled by them. Watcher X writes, I like that name. Enjoyed Venom despite obvious problems. It seems Sony rushed the production compared to how long other films in the genre take. With so much writing on it, why do you think they didn't take their time? They did. They took plenty of time on it. Rushing was not one of their problems. They took this film went into pre-production and development ages ago. Ages ago. So therefore, Watcher, look, I really don't think they rushed it at all. They took plenty of time to make this movie. They took just as much, if not more time than Captain Marvel has been taking. They had plenty of development time. This movie was in the planning stage and development years ago. So yeah, they took their time on it. Look, sometimes you do everything right, but it doesn't work out, right? Sony did the right things. They did the right. They gave it enough time. They got the right people involved, but it didn't work out to be a perfect movie. I think a lot of us watch X like you. We ended up enjoying the movie, but it's got some obvious problems. But they didn't stem from them rushing the film. They took their time on the film, as much as any movie does. It certainly wasn't rushed. It may come across feeling rushed. There's no denying that. But at the end of the day, they gave as much time plenty of time in pre-production, and that's really where most of the work is done. So I don't think it was a rushed film. I really don't. I can't think of a good I can't think of a good username. Writes, I like the homemade suit the most. Oh, talking about Spider-Man, assumably. I like the homemade suit. I do. I got a big kick out of the homemade suit. But I got to say, I do like this new one. Even though they've gone black instead of blue, there is comic book precedent for that. But I think I would rather see the more traditional red and blue. I think I'd rather see that. But putting that aside for a second, I think the new costume looks great. But yeah, I like the original homemade suit too, man. Ray Vickers writes, hey, John, do you know what's going on with Andy Serkis movie Mowgli? I thought the movie was done. I know it was sold to Netflix, but now it says it's being released next year. Yeah. As soon as, you may not remember this, Ray, as soon as it was announced that Netflix was picking it up, they announced immediately that they were going to target it for release in 2019. They said that right away. Like, it was even in the same press release. When it got announced that the movie had been pawned off to Netflix, Netflix immediately, in the exact same story, said, we're going to take this and we're targeting for a 2019 release date. Remember, it's not about when's the movie done. It's about when's the right time to release it. Netflix may feel they still want maybe to put a little bit more distance between them and releasing this movie and Jungle Book, which is kind of retelling the same story. So they probably just felt they wanted to put a little bit more cushion of time. They may have had other reasons as well. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's coming out in 2019, but they told us that on day one when it was announced that Netflix had the project. And again, I feel, although I'm just speculating here, that the reason for pushing it in 2019 was to put more buffer between them and Jungle Book. And to me, that makes sense. So why not hold it off? There's no reason to put it out right now. There's nothing that says they got to put it out right now. If you think you can do better and get more people's attention on it when you put it on your platform by releasing it next year, then by all means, release it next year. Geo writes, where's Geo? There he is. You've seen the Romanoffs from the guy who made Mad Men. I have not. I don't watch a lot of TV. But that is one I'm seeing a lot of people talk about. A lot of people talking about this Romanoffs series. And as a matter of fact, I was just on Amazon looking to buy some tech gear last night. And all over Amazon was ads for watch Romanoffs. And so I might have to give that a shot because I'm hearing some pretty good things about it. Brennan Millspaw writes, John, man, I don't understand what you mean. I thought Ryan Gosling's portrayal was really faithful and the visual effects are insanely good. I thought the visual effects were very good. I never said they weren't. That moment on the moon was really touching as well. I loved it. I don't understand. I actually had people tweeting me saying, John, why didn't you like First Man? I said this is the internet, man. I said over and over again, I loved First Man. I had a great time watching First Man. One of my critiques, though, was I did not like the decision by Damien Chazelle and Ryan Gosling to desaturate so much emotion out of the character. Now, some people will say, but John, it was well known that Neil Armstrong was a very, what's the best word for it? I'll just say subdued. He was a very, very subdued guy. All accounts say that. Maybe. But from the recordings we have of Neil Armstrong, particularly, especially when you watch the scene when he's on the moon and he talks to Houston, in which Ryan Gosling mimics exactly how Neil Armstrong talked to Houston, there was way more life and character and personality in that statement than in anything else in the character in the movie. I feel they went too far. And even if that was exactly the way Neil Armstrong was in real life, I think The recordings of Neil Armstrong completely contradict that because there was clearly a little bit more life. He spoke with a little bit more emotion in his voice than he did in the movie. Clearly he did. But even if that wasn't the case, and it was, but even if that wasn't the case, for the sake of your movie, I think you needed to infuse, saturate a little bit more emotion into him so he doesn't seem so despondent from the screen. You know how they say the camera adds 10 pounds? Well, on the screen, the desaturation of the emotion took even more away from it to me, which made it difficult for audiences to attach to the character. Because I've talked to a number of people that just thought First Man was a boring film. I do not agree. I was thrilled with the movie. I think it's fantastic, and I think there's a good argument to be made that it'll get nominated for Best Picture. And I'll have no qualms about that. I think it's wonderful. I had a great time watching this movie, but I still, despite whatever anybody else wants to say, I firmly stand by the recordings of Neil Armstrong, including the scene of Ryan talking back to Houston, clearly show that there was a little bit more emotion, a little bit more life in that character than they chose to portray it. And I think even if that wasn't the case, you still needed to put a little bit more into it for the sake of the screen. And that was just one of my critiques of it. But everybody's saying, because if you say anything today in the internet world, oh, there's this one thing about this movie I didn't like, instantly turns into, John hated First Man. He didn't like First Man. No, I love the movie. I don't know how many times and how many different ways I can say I love the movie. But that is one of my problems with it. Robert Perez writes, just wanted to say good morning, everyone. Well, good morning to you, Robert, as well. I hope you're having a good one. Of course, to all of our friends on the Eastern time zone, it's already the afternoon out there. We had a little bit of a jump. Here we go. I can't think of a good username. Guys, we're already way over time, so I'm just going to rush through these as fast as I can. I can't think of a good username. Writes, I feel talking about who the next Bond is disrespectful to Daniel Craig, who is still Bond. At least wait until his last film is out. I don't think it's disrespectful to Daniel Craig. Here's the thing. It's only disrespectful to Daniel Craig if he's being fired from Bond after this one. If Daniel Craig was being, like they just weren't renewing his contract for Bond after this one, then it's disrespectful. But he's chosen for this to be his last Bond film. And well, that's perfectly fine. He's played Bond in a lot of films. It's good. It's time for him to move on. Great. Good on him. But it's his choice. This is Daniel Craig's choice to move on from Bond. And as such, I don't think it's disrespectful at all. He made the choice to leave. Again, if he was being fired from it, like, look, if you work at a job at, I don't know, the Oopa Oopa factory, where they make jazizzles. They make jazizzles at the Oopa Oopa factory. If Tom was getting laid off next week, and he's getting fired next week, to talk about who is going to be replacing Tom would be insensitive and disrespectful. But if Tom said, hey guys, I'm moving to Hawaii, and he's going to be leaving in 2 weeks, then it's not disrespectful to talk about who might replace him. I disagree with you on that, man. I don't think it's disrespectful simply because it's his choice to move on, so it's totally fine. I think so, at any rate. All right, Ralph Roshia writes, hey, John, have you ever seen the movie Dragon Slayer, one of my favorite sword and sorcerer movies? It's ironic. Ian McDiarmid plays a holy man who gets toasted by the dragon. I have seen Dragon Slayer. It's funny because somebody else just brought up Dragon Slayer on the show like 2 weeks ago. I think it was only about 2 weeks ago. Let me just pull this up here quickly. I think it was only like 2 weeks ago that everybody talked about it. Anyway, 1981. Who was the star of that thing again? I don't remember any of the stars' names. I'm just trying to bring up some of the stars' names. Okay, so it was an actor by the name of Peter McNichol, Caitlin Clark, Ralph Richardson. I like him. John Hallam, Peter Eyre. Yes, didn't even remember any of the names of any of the actors, and that didn't help. But Ian McDiarmid, of course, the Emperor himself, who was also great in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Yeah, I watched it. I didn't think it was great. I haven't watched it in like 20 years. And when I did watch it, I was a little kid. I saw it again probably in the mid-90s sometime. But I remember not exactly loving it. So there's that. Jim Copeland writes, I have to disagree with you about the portrayal of Armstrong. I thought Gosling showed so much emotional depth, even in the science film. Disagree. But hey, that's why all film is subjective. You thought he showed depth. I didn't think he did. There were like two moments in the film. One in particular, I'm not going to give anything away. Both of them revolve around his daughter. And again, I'm not going to give anything away. There are two particular scenes in the movie, both revolving around his daughter, that I thought he did show great emotional depth in those two isolated scenes. But they were two scenes in a 2-hour and 20-minute movie. So there's that. But hey, man, that's the great thing about movies. You saw it and you saw it a certain way. I saw it and I saw it a certain way. And it's totally fine. So that's one of the great things about movies. John St. Louis just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Jovan. Jason Ongoko writes, John, why do people have an issue with Zendaya and Journey Smollett playing white characters since both of them are half white? Well, I think here's the thing. Because there are people who are racist. There are also people who are just comic book purists. That has nothing to do with race or racism. It's like, in the comic book, it's always been this way. Who the fuck cares the way? This isn't the comic book. This is the movie screen. That's always usually my thing. So it's like, look, do you think X-Men Days of Future Past, one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, did that look anything like the actual comic book X-Men Days of Future Past? No. They did things for the movie to make it a great movie, and it is a great movie, and they made changes and adaptations, whatever. Guess what? First of all, Zendaya is not Mary Jane Watson. Can we? There are still some people out there who believe that Zendaya is Mary Jane Watson. She's not. She's a new character. And yes, as a wink to the audience, her initials are indeed MJ, but she is not Mary Jane Watson. This is a new character. So go read a comic book for anybody who's complaining about it. This isn't that character. It's a character who's taking the place of that other character, but it is indeed a different character. So there shouldn't be any things. With Journey Smollett, look, there have been so many different iterations of that character. Who's to say? Here's a great thing. Bryan Singer, when he was taking Superman Returns to Comic-Con, remember, the movie hadn't come out yet. And this is applicable. This is a great saying that everybody should keep in mind. Somebody at Comic-Con asked Bryan Singer, and there's a great video of this, saying, why did you decide to change the Superman costume? Right? To which Bryan Singer gave the best answer. And he said this, change it from what? Change it from what? He went on to say, I can't remember the exact number, so don't quote me on this. I'm sure this isn't the right number, but he went on to say, there have been 31 iterations of the Superman costume in the comic books. 31. So when you ask me, why did you change the costume? I need to ask you, change it from what? Because there have been 31, some major, some minor, but there have been 31 iterations of the Superman costume in the comic books. So when you say, why did you change it? I need to ask you, change it from what? The fact of the matter is, comic books have many iterations, not just in costume looks, but also in character origins, character appearance, all that kind of stuff. Comic books change it up all the time. They change a lot of stuff. So why should a movie incarnation be beholden to any one particular iteration of a look, of a backstory, of a character appearance? Why should they? This is the movie version. And the movie version is what the movie version is. Or the television character is what the television character is. This isn't the comic book. It's based on the comic book, but it's not the comic book. It is the movie world. And the movie world and the comic books do not share a universe. They're different. So, and look, and the bottom line is, as human beings are just resistant to change. I've always thought of it like this, therefore I want it like this. Well, tough. That's not the way the world works. Make your character, put in the performer you wanted to have it in, make it a dynamic that you think will work, and to hell with what they do in the comic book. That's just kind of the way I see it. Anyway, so Jason, there you go. There are some people who are just comic book purists. We as human beings don't like change, and there's a segment out there that are just plain racist and want everything to be pasty white. Like me, pasty white. Anyway, Jovan St. Louis writes, John, are there any director and actor collaborations you would love to see? For me, it's Timothy Chalamet and Ari Aster, director of Hereditary. P.S. Thanks for taking my question for yesterday. Well, no problem, Jovan. Thank you for sending in questions. No, not any particular. Look, to me, it's like asking, which actor should play X role? As long as it's a good actor, right? To me, what director-actor combinations do you like to see? I don't know, any good director with any good actor. I mean, at the end of the day. That's really it all comes down to me. So, no, there's none, no combination I'm aching to see. There are thousands of combinations that I think would be great. But for me, there's no one particular thing that I think to work with one particular actor. Look, you can't determine, there's no figuring it out on paper what the chemistry between a director and an actor will be. You just got to get them together and see how it works. With some, it's great. Like Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg, great combination. Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, great combination. Would I have figured Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg? No, never would have, not on paper, but it worked. And so to me, it's a little bit folly trying to say this combination would be great when we really don't know. But there are many, 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 many of them that I'd be fascinated to see. But no real one for me that kind of clicks, that makes me go, oh, this is one I got to see. You know what I mean? So, if there's ever going to be one, it would be, in my opinion, the greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg, with the greatest actor of all time, which is Daniel Day-Lewis. But they did it. They did it in Lincoln, and it ended up getting Daniel Day-Lewis an Academy Award. So there's that one. All right, guys, now I really got to fly because I'm so over time here. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, if I were making a Green Lantern movie, I'd make it a team-building exercise with the Earth Lanterns. Hal Jordan would be the experienced leader with a reckless streak. John Stewart would be a calm, moderating influence. Guy Gardner would be an arrogant, solo-flying frat boy, and Kyle Rayner would be a sensitive, emotional, distant guy mourning his recent dead girlfriend. I'll skip over Jovan for just 1 second. The movie would be about a galactic threat like Star or whatever, forcing the Corps to initiate a recruiting drive, and how the 4 Earth Lanterns had to learn to trust each other. Your thoughts? I don't know. Here's the thing, Angry Irish Benjamin. I get a lot of people who write to me, here's what I would do with this movie. What do you think? I don't know. Sure, there are a thousand good ideas that you could do. We've heard reports that what Disney is planning on doing is a Green Lantern Corps movie. So it's going to be multiple characters. Personally, I would like them to focus on one Green Lantern to start. Personally, focus on one Green Lantern, get us reintroduced to this new mythology of the Lantern Corps, and the rings and the lanterns and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I would like to see. Kind of like what Venom just did. Focus on one character, one story, go. But there is also a lot of potential in the dynamic of a bigger team movie like The Corps, right? Kind of like turning the Green Lantern movie into a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Essentially, that's what we're proposing here, right? We're talking about a team up of all these guys and blah, 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 blah. Look, I'm a big fan of Kyle Rayner and the Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner plays a really cool role in Injustice Gods Among Us, by the way. John Stewart, Hal Jordan, who to me is the definitive Green Lantern, is Hal Jordan. I would do a Hal Jordan movie to start. Personally, that's what I would do. But as far as the rest, here's the thing, Angry. I don't. Let me it's just something to you, because you sent in some great questions, but I don't like taking questions about, hey, John, here's my idea for this movie. What do you think? Because I don't want my chat board to become filled with people sending me their pitches for their movie ideas. Here's the thing. We get attached to an idea about what a movie should be, and we become disconnected from what the movie actually ends up being. So could something like that work? Sure, something like that could work. They're clearly going for a Green Lantern Corps kind of movie. So it could involve all those characters. Absolutely. Is that the right idea? I don't know. Look, I've always said this, and I mean it. Any movie idea can work. Your movie idea can work. You can make a Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone. Well, here, we'll put on his hat. Sorry for the noise. There. It's Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone. Woo! I remember me telling that story? You can make a movie about Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone, and it could work. You made a movie about plastic building blocks called Lego, and it worked. It's all about execution. Your movie idea could be the worst movie in history, or your movie idea could be the best movie in history. Any concept can work. It all depends on execution. It all depends on execution and how it's executed. So there you go. Joven St. Louis writes, would you be up for Baby Driver 2? Oh, I've said that from the first time I've seen it. Because I love the characters, and I'd be totally up. Now, unfortunately, there would be some characters we couldn't revisit, some because of on-camera issues, some because of off-camera issues. That's too bad. But yeah, I'd be up for another one. Totally. I've said that from day one that I saw Baby. I love that movie. I'd totally be down for another one. Let's see. I can't think of a good username writes, will episode 9 be successful financially because The Last Jedi split the fan base and Solo did poorly at the box office? Oh, episode 9 is going to be huge. It's easily going to make over $1 billion, no doubt. And Solo, I said from day one that they announced Solo that nobody asked for this movie. And they even made a good movie, good space adventure movie. But nobody wanted, in an era when we just had Harrison Ford as Han Solo, nobody was wanting to rush out and see a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. I said that from day one, years before this movie came out. So yes, episode 9 is going to make tons of money. Make no mistake about it. I can't think of a good username, right? Oh yeah, Box, because you accidentally wrote block. No problem, man. I got you. I knew what you were saying. Let's see. Quentin Carter writes, getting married Saturday. Whoa, congratulations, man. Her favorite movie is Star Trek V. Really? What's your favorite Star Trek, not including Wrath of Khan? Star Trek IV, Undiscovered Country. Star Trek IV, The Undiscovered Country is my favorite Star Trek movie. Other than Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan is obviously my favorite. But Star Trek IV, Undiscovered Country is a fabulous movie. Absolutely fabulous movie. Undiscovered Country is Star Trek VI. What am I saying here? That's Star Trek, I believe that's Undiscovered. Yes, Star Trek 6 is Undiscovered Country. By the way, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, is also amazing. Computer? Oh, a keyboard, how quaint. I love Star Trek 4, The Journey Home, or The Voyage Home. That movie's great. But yes, my second favorite other than Wrath of Khan. Ever notice the Star Trek movies? All the even number ones are awesome. The odd number ones, not so much. 1, 3, and 5, not so much. 2, 4, and 6, amazing. So I'll go in that original run of Star Trek movies. Wrath of Khan is my favorite. Undiscovered Country is my second favorite. And Voyage Home is my third favorite. So that's how I see it. And congratulations on the upcoming nuptials, man. Good on you. Travis Elrod writes, have you seen the Gosnell movie or trailer? Your thoughts? Nope. I don't even know what we're talking about, to be honest, Travis. I'm going to have to look that up. Let's see. Frank C. Graham IV writes, have you watched The Haunting on Hill House on Netflix yet? Nope. Absolutely terrifying. We don't really get too many horror-centric shows. No, I haven't seen it. Again, I don't watch a hell of a lot of television. I just don't have a lot of time for it. But I've heard, Frank, many, many good things. I'm hearing a lot of people rave about it. Particularly my friends who are into horror. And, they'll have more sensitive tastes about it, and they're really liking it. So I'm hearing great things. I'm probably going to have to check it out at some point. And the final question today comes to us from Mark Blauser, who writes, it's a cookbook! One of the original twists in a big movie. How to Serve Man, it's a cookbook! It's one of the great twists. One of the all-time great twists. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Don't forget the show will be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That'll be noon Eastern Standard Time. I hope you guys will come back and join me again then. Again, many thanks to you guys for standing around this virtual water cooler with me. My favorite time of day when we all just get to talk about movies. Thanks so much. Thanks to those of you who are sending in questions, and thanks for being a part of this community. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.